Ethan never imagined silence could be so loud. It wasn't the peaceful kind that filled the house after a long day. It was heavy, uneasy, like the air before a storm. He and Lila had been together since college. They had grown up side by side, from first job nerves in a tiny apartment to late-night noodles on the floor. Marriage was just supposed to be an extension of that rhythm. But lately she felt distant, like her body was still there while her heart had moved elsewhere. At first he blamed her new promotion. More meetings, late calls, endless messages. "Just for a while," she'd say. "Once this project's over, things will calm down." Ethan wanted to believe her. He always did. But one Saturday night while he was cooking dinner, her phone buzzed non-stop on the counter. He ignored it until the same name flashed again and again. Tom, her co-worker. He told himself it was innocent. He'd met Tom once at a company party. Confident smile, sharp suit. The kind of man who looked like he'd never lost a bet in his life. When Lila came out of the shower, he handed her the phone. Tom called a few times. She froze for a fraction of a second, then smiled too quickly. "Oh, he's just checking in on some reports." "On a Saturday?" he asked. She just shrugged. "Deadlines don't care about weekends." Ethan nodded, but a small crack formed inside him, just wide enough to let the doubt slip in. 2 weeks later, he got home early to the sound of rain lashing against the windows. Lila's car wasn't in the driveway. He assumed she was working late again. He poured a drink, turned on the radio, and sat by the window watching the storm roll in. Then, the lights went out. The entire neighborhood plunged into darkness. Ethan picked up his phone to look for candles when a new message lit up the screen. From their shared cloud account, a small detail she'd probably forgotten. It was from Tom. "You're still coming tonight, right? I can't wait to see you again. Room 305. For a long time, Ethan didn't move. He just stared at the glowing words while rain hammered the glass. The house was completely dark except for that one small light, his phone screen, illuminating the truth he'd tried so hard to avoid. He could have called her. He could have screamed or cried or thrown something against the wall. But he did none of those things. He simply grabbed his coat and keys and drove out into the storm. The hotel was only 15 minutes away. He parked under the flickering neon sign, rainwater streaming down his windshield. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to go home, to let it go, to not turn the handle on something that couldn't be undone. But love, once wounded, seeks proof, like a knife seeks flesh. He went inside. The receptionist glanced up, startled. "I'm looking for someone," he said, his voice surprisingly calm. "Lila Carter." The woman hesitated, then pointed toward the elevator. "Third floor. Room 305. The hallway smelled of cheap cologne and air freshener. Each step echoed off the walls. When he reached the door, he paused. He could hear voices inside, laughter, soft and warm. It was Lila's laugh. He knocked. The laughter stopped, replaced by silence, then whispering. The door opened a few inches, the security chain still on. Tom's face appeared, startled and pale. "Ethan? Where's my wife?" Lila's voice came from behind the door, shaking. "Ethan, wait." He pushed the door, and the chain snapped. Time seemed to slow down. He saw the rumpled bed, the wine glasses on the nightstand, her scarf draped over a chair. And he saw Lila standing there, eyes wide, her face drained of all color. Ethan didn't yell. He didn't ask why. He just looked at her like a man staring at the ruins of his own home. "I thought you were at work," he said softly. She started to cry. It wasn't supposed to happen. He almost laughed. "That's what everyone says right before it does." He turned and left. She called after him, her voice cracking in the empty hallway. "Ethan, please, let me explain." But the elevator doors closed before she could reach him. He didn't go home that night. He drove to the old park by the river, sat in his car, and listened to the storm fade away. His hands trembled on the steering wheel. The silence returned, but this time it was deeper, final. By morning, the sky had cleared, but something inside him hadn't. He went home, packed a small bag, and left a note on the kitchen table. "I hope he makes you happy. I hope it was worth it." When Lila came home, she found the note and broke down on the floor. She called him again and again, but he never answered. The divorce was quiet. No shouting, no revenge, just paperwork. Lila tried to talk to him once, but he couldn't look at her without seeing that hotel door. Ethan moved into a small, half-furnished apartment near the river. For the first time in years, he slept through the night without waiting for someone to come home late. Sometimes he'd catch himself replaying that night. Not the betrayal, but the silence that followed. The way the storm seemed to carry everything away. One evening, he ran into Tom at a grocery store. Tom looked different. Tired, thinner. A man who'd realized too late that some victories cost more than they're worth. They locked eyes, and Tom started to speak, but Ethan just shook his head and walked away. He didn't hate him anymore. He didn't even hate Lila. He just didn't have room left for either of them in his life. A year later, Ethan met someone new. A woman named Nora, a painter with bright eyes and a quiet, calming soul. She didn't ask about his past, and he didn't offer it. They took long walks, talked about everything and nothing, and sometimes just sat in comfortable silence. One evening, as they watched the sunset from his balcony, the power flickered and went out again. Nora laughed softly. "Guess we're having dinner by candlelight." Ethan smiled, lighting a match. The small flame glowed between them, gentle and warm. He realized then that not all darkness meant loss. Sometimes it meant a new beginning, and for the first time in a long, long while, the silence around him felt peaceful again. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content. We'll see you in the next one.